Welcome to Golf Smarter Mulligans, your second chance to gain insight and advice from the best instructors featured on the Golf Smarter podcast. Great golf instruction never gets old. Our interview library features hundreds of hours of game improvement conversations like this that are no longer available in any podcast app.
The golf swing's very complicated. There's a lot of components to it. So one of the things that I teach people when I work with them and teach their bodies to be much more effective in their golf swing is how you set up. How do you engage core? How do you maintain core? How do you rotate from core? If you have those components lined up every time, then you're going to be able to have less of a tendency to get injured. But what I see with people is they do sway or they slide, they do early extension, they're trying to hit the ball hard, they're opening, they don't have their legs positioned well, they're in a C curve or an S curve. These are all different golf swing faults. But it's basically their body's inability to stay engaged in the midline so that they can rotate around that midline and get the different body parts to sequence the way it's supposed to. So what will happen is that people can't turn, so they'll lift up, which puts more pressure on the neck and the shoulders. Or they can't get their wrists to cock at the top because they're in the wrong position, so they'll just try to push their wrists up more. And these things can all cause injuries.
With another interview from the archives of Golf Smarter, here's your host, Fred Green.
If you've been following my posts on our Golf Smarter Facebook group lately, you'll know that I've been working with Ann Grassel, who's a TPI certified instructor and a sports medicine physical therapist. Ann isn't a PGA certified instructor, so she's not working on my swing specifically. But as a physical therapist and someone who's been playing golf for quite a while, she also helps me isolate issues that I have with my swing that's caused by poor posture, bad body positioning at address, and at contact. Frankly, she's got me on a regimen that is changing the way I walk, sit, stand, and sleep, and you'll hear all about it. All this so that I can play golf pain-free for years to come. This is part one of our conversation, and in next week's members-only episode, she'll answer a few questions that have been submitted by our listeners about hip turn and the difference between golf for men and women. But let's get a better understanding of how important your body is to the entire golf equation. Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, Ann.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here. Nice to see you.
I'm happy to have you. It's good to see you. Thank you for letting me come in and do this. Now, we should, clarify for everybody that we are working together on a regular basis now.
We are.
And that's because, as people who've been listening for a while know and understand, I've complained about lower back pain after a round of golf for a long time. I've actually complained about lower back pain for a long time. Golf didn't make it any better, but the addiction is there, and I refuse to give it up. So let's talk about, we'll talk about what we're doing together, but let's clarify what it is that you do. Let's talk about a sports medicine physical therapist and what you do with that and how you help people.
Okay. So I've been a sports medicine physical therapist for 31 years, so a long time. And over the years, sports medicine, just like the approach to golf, has changed. It used to be that we would work on someone's knee or work on someone's back or work on someone's neck. And as it has evolved, now what we see is that we want to see how the whole body is affecting back problems or affecting knee problems or affecting neck problems. And it's the same thing in golf. It used to be that they would just you go and take some lessons and hope your body knew what to do. Well, now with the whole new fitness trend, they're really finding that you have to have a game plan, if you will, for what your body will be able to do to be more effective in your golf swing, to be more powerful, and to not become injured. So as a physical therapist for years, I've done a lot of work on treating injuries. I do a lot of what's called movement re-education, so I teach people how to move differently. I do a lot of exercise programs with people, teaching how to walk and sit and stand differently. I go to the gym with people, so I have pretty much an overall approach that I do. And then in addition, for years I've been doing ergonomics, so I also look at the way people are set up in their workstations and their car seats and their shoes, so that once they start to change, they have a new way to support themselves.
And it's the kind of thing like any addiction where you have to want to change too. You've got to be motivated to make those changes to do that.
Well, yes, and most people are. It's really surprising. What happens with people is they don't get good information, or they try to do something that doesn't really work very effectively. And so they get frustrated with the whole approach. A lot of times they're given information and they think that their body immediately should be able to do the new thing that they're taught. And that's just not possible. It takes a while for the body to learn new patterns and to learn how to change and to learn how to integrate things. And so to just give someone something and go, okay, now you should be able to do this, really is frustrating and inappropriate and really doesn't work very well. So
the re-education is really what I'm going through. I mean, you've mentioned before, and I've mentioned this on the Facebook group. I've been keeping track on the Golf Smarter Facebook group of our progress together and letting people know what I'm going through. And to me, I walked out of the first session as if I'm saying, okay, I now have to relearn how to sit, stand, walk, sleep. And then maybe we'll get to a golf swing, too, at some point.
Exactly. Yeah, because it's most effective.
And my shoes. I mean,
Right.
You were saying that
right.
your shoes are not really helping you as much as you think. You
Right.
know?
Yeah. And again, this is the sort of the piecemeal approach that it happens often with people is like, put these shoes on, try this exercise, do this, and there's no synthesis of it. And so the people don't have a way to learn what it is they're trying to get their bodies to do, and then to see how all the things that they do, whether it affects it for the better or for the worse. So if you know how to stand in neutral, and then you put shoes on and it's taking you out of neutral, you know those aren't the shoes you should be wearing. If you
describe, now you have to explain neutral.
Okay. So
which is fine.
Yeah. So neutral, the body is built to be in alignment. The body is built to have the joints be soft and gliding, not locked. And so most people stand with their knees locked and their hips locked. Yes, that would be you. Yes. Not so much anymore.
No, it's amazing how conscious I am of this stuff now. All of a sudden, it's like, my knees are locked. You know? And then all this pressure I'm putting on myself to unlock your knees, unlock your ankles.
Right.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah. Don't tuck your legs underneath your chair, which is what we started with today. Right?
I'm supposed to be in control now. Okay.
So to find neutral, it's basically, neutral's not a place that you live in. Like some people think, okay, am I in neutral? Am I in neutral? It's really a place that you move from. So in sports, it's the ready stance. That's more towards what neutral is. I mean, people who are playing in sports don't stand with their knees locked and kind of leaning back and their head forward because you can't move and you can't get strength developed in your body. If you were a blocker in football and you stood like that, you'd be on your butt in a second. So it really is learning the way that the body can maintain an aligned standing posture for extended periods of times and then move from there. And that's really what I teach people to do. So and most people don't have any idea what that is. And a lot of times they're taught things that are not correct. And so once you learn how to get your body in this aligned position where the joints are all gliding and everything's, what I say, playing nice together, all the muscles are playing nice together, then you can start to assess whether or not the shoes that you're wearing are going to be ones that's going to support you in staying in this more neutral posture and being able to move. Same thing in a chair. If you're sitting in a chair and you don't know whether or not the chair supports you because you don't know where you're supposed to be, because most people try to sit up straight, which is really bad because you can't sit up straight. It's impossible to do. And that's what you'll find with most people. With kids, the parents always tell them sit up straight, and 3 seconds later they're slouched again because they actually never learned how to be in neutral and be in alignment. They were just putting tension in their body, and as soon as they forget or their parents walk away, tension goes away and they go back into their slumped position. Right.
So it should be an easy, comfortable position, but you shouldn't be forcing yourself. You shouldn't be creating tension. And I think, thank you, because it's like, every time I try to, when I realize that I'm not in a neutral position, things get tense.
Yes.
And and as we talked about last week, it is definitely, I'm in a stage of conscious incompetence right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I'm trying really hard, but it takes a lot of thought process, which has a huge impact on my golf swing too, because I'm thinking about things where I'm supposed to have my mind clear. I'm thinking about things that we'll get to the golf swing in a little bit.
Yeah.
But I want to talk more about how we move along, and how many people just don't really understand what they're doing, and you're putting this all together.
Right. Well, it all goes back to the fact that we are actually supposed to be a dynamic, as human beings, we're supposed to be dynamic. We're supposed to be moving. So what most of us are doing are sitting. So we, lie in a bed that's soft and usually not sleeping in good postures, as you well know. Yeah, you have to tell him your story. Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, he can tell you his story about how his back got better once
I started sleeping on my back.
Yes, in a different posture than you were. Right. And we're so sedentary, and we're sitting on things that are too soft, and we just aren't giving our bodies the opportunity to be in postures that really are the ones that our bodies know well and can really do. So we keep going out of sort of this known aligned posture, which the body is actually geared for. This is what people forget, is that sitting in alignment, sitting up, if you will, or sitting in more length, is actually where the body is built to be. It's not built to be slumped with your head forward and your chest collapsed. That's not what it's built for. We just got there because we're not sitting in things that keep us in alignment, and it's just bad postures, So what we have to do is we have to find a way to learn how to reconnect our body with those pathways and that knowledge that's really the knowledge that was in there all along. We just keep losing it all the time by sitting slumped. And, you watch kids play video games now, and you watch them in their desk, and they're all sort of in this slumped alignment all the time. And then parents always say, with the best intention, sit up straight, And people then get confused because they're trying to do it, but they can't. And people then get confused because they're trying to do it, but they can't.
Right, and the parents don't even really know what that means because they've always slumped.
Right.
We've always slumped. But how do we explain that? How do we get kids to sit properly and get them into a proper lifestyle of sitting correctly? How do we do that?
It's challenging. So one of the first things is to look what they're sitting on. So many years ago, a friend of mine's son was playing a video game, and he's on this big, soft, slunchy couch, and he's sitting there, and he's all sunk down in the couch, and all he's moving is like his thumbs and his fingers. So he's really a candidate for a repetitive stress injury, that people get a lot of times on computers, and now they get it doing the video games sort of thing. So I said to her, do you mind if I show him something different? So she had like wooden kitchen chairs. So I went and got a wooden kitchen chair, and then I put a towel under it that I shaped it like a little wedge. So it was a little higher in the back, a little lower in the front. So it actually wedged a little bit, so he sat more forward and upright. Exactly. Fred just did it. I talked about it, and immediately he came up into more alignment and leaned forward. And as soon as I put him on that chair, it was a lot harder for him to slump, especially with this little wedge underneath the bottom of his butt, because it brings your body up and forward, which is where it's supposed to be. And so sometimes the best thing to do is to make sure that the kids are sitting on things that at least gives them a fighting chance to be in alignment that's not so slumped. And that's often the first part that gets missed, is that we're sitting on things that just aren't built to sit on and use our bodies very effectively.
So you've been doing sports medicine physical therapy for a long time.
Right.
But I think what you also bring to the table is that you're a golfer. I
am, yeah.
And you've been playing for a long time as well.
Yes,
and
very long time.
That really helps because you know that I've been taking this core strengthening class a couple times a week for like 4 years, and it's really helped me a lot. But you happened to be at the gym where I was working out and noticed that I really wasn't doing things properly, that I could have been getting more benefit from these exercises that I was doing than I was actually getting. Although it's helped a lot, I'm still...
4 years down the line. So again, this is a thing where you get part of the information. So what you're getting is really good. It's like, even if you don't do the things that I tell you to do the way that you do them, doing any exercise is better than not doing it. Doing any stretch is better than doing none. But what's especially great is that if you have again, what I call a game plan. So if your body knows how to engage the core muscles, it knows how to be able to move and glide with ease. And then every exercise that you do and every stretch that you do helps reinforce this new pattern that you're working on. Then you're way ahead of the game, because then your body starts to integrate things, and it's an easy process because it's able to integrate things. Whereas if the body's out of alignment and you try to teach it a new thing, all you tend to do is strengthen your out of alignment posture. So what I tend to say is that oftentimes people have parts of their bodies and muscles that overwork and ones that underwork. And then they go to the gym and they strengthen that pattern. So what starts to overwork all the time continues to overwork. And the ones that don't work, you don't magically get them to work because you don't really know how to get them to be activated. So what I do is I show you how to be able to do this, and then all of a sudden your body goes, oh, that's why you're doing that exercise. That makes so much sense. And the body gets it. And you've experienced this yourself when we did the stretching. If we stretched one side, all of a sudden you felt, oh yeah, my hamstrings in length, I can feel the difference, I walk differently, the glide feels different. But if you stretch both of them and you stand up, it's like, yeah, maybe I feel something, but you can't really tell unless you have some kind of parameters that you're basing the difference on, So the body doesn't just magically get things, you have to give it a pathway in that it can first feel it and then acknowledge what it's doing and then continually integrate it. And that's the thing that you really have to learn, because the body doesn't, for the most part that I've seen in the 31 years I've been a physical therapist, it doesn't just magically do it, So
really?
Yeah, really. Well, as we saw, and Fred, we were going to talk about you, but I'm going to say is that when I looked at Fred's alignment the first time, his abdominal muscles, which he's been working on at this class twice a week for 4 years, was not quite as engaged as I would expect them to be from someone who's been doing this for 4 years. And so I think
she's being very nice, saying I had a pot belly. my belly was sticking out with like I can be fairly flat stomach.
Right.
I don't have a lot of body fat here.
Right.
My BMI is down.
Right.
But it looks like I'm like,
you have a poochie belly is what I call it.
Poochie belly.
Right. And part of it was the posture. So when he stood in a way where you lock in your knees and kind of tuck your butt, it causes a muscle called the psoas to make your belly pooch because it shortens it. So as soon as I showed him how to stand differently, almost instantly, that was less. And then I showed him actually how to do abdominal exercises, so he actually really learned how to use them. And now I'm seeing him sitting here, and he's not pooching hardly at all. So
I'm holding in my stomach.
You can't breathe either, but
no, I can't breathe. I'm holding in the stomach. But this is a golf show. I mean, and let's talk about how this relates to golfers, all the different aches and pains that they possibly have,
right.
And not really realizing, thinking it's, because I'm not that active. I just go out and play golf once a week, or and I go to the driving range twice a week, and they're not realizing that these little aches and pains are really manifested by improper use of their body.
Yes.
So what are kinds of things that they should be aware of? That are red flags,
right,
for golfers,
right,
that you recognize?
Well, it's funny. I go to the driving range and I have to kind of just sort of cover my eyes and not really look at what most people are doing. The problem is that, well, there's a couple different issues. Is that in the golf swing's very complicated. We all know that. There's a lot of components to it. And so if we don't have a place that we start, so one of the things that I teach people when I work with them and teach their bodies to be much more effective in their golf swing is how you set up. So how do you engage core? How do you maintain core? How do you rotate from core? So if you have those components lined up every time, then you're going to be able to have less of a tendency to get injured. But what I see with people is they do sway or they slide, they do early extension, they're trying to hit the ball hard, they're opening, they don't have their legs positioned well, they're in a C curve or an S curve. These are all different golf swing faults that I analyze when I do the golf swing analysis. And all these things, I watch them do it over and over and over, and then they try to change their grip a little bit and they try to do this, but it's basically their body's inability to stay engaged in the midline so that they can rotate around that midline and get the different body parts to sequence the way it's supposed to. So what'll happen is that people can't turn, so they'll lift up, which puts more pressure on the neck and the shoulders. Or they can't get their wrists to cock at the top because they're in the wrong position. So they'll just try to push their wrists up more. And these things can all cause injuries. And then if you're imposing that tension, as soon as you go to swing, that impact, which is really great amount of force, the body's out of alignment, and then you start getting impact forces coming through your body that's going to start injuring wrists and injuring shoulders and injuring necks and injuring backs, or your knees or whatever. So that's what I start to do, is I really give them a place to start every single time. Like the first client I worked with, she said she was 72 years old. She came in, she had chronic neck pain. She played golf a couple times a week. And so after 3 visits with me, her neck pain was gone, and she was hitting it 30 to 50 yards further, which was really, she was pretty small, and she was thrilled. And she said 2 things. Every time I set up, I do exactly what you tell me to do. So she's consistent. And the second thing she said that's so great, she goes, every time I tee off, all my women friends go, whoa.
I love when that happens. I love it. Nice swing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's because I'm using my tour tempo.
And keeping your core engaged.
Keeping my core engaged.
Right.
And unlocking my legs.
Right.
When I addressed the ball, the first thing I always did, a friend used to make fun of me. He would go, attention, because I would stand at attention. I'd lock everything up and then, work from there. And now I'm like, oh, that's all wrong. What you just described was where you start from an instructor side to get people started. We talk a lot about the PGA,
right?
Position, grip, and alignment,
right?
But as the golfer, that's not what I recognize. I appreciate that you're starting there, but I got to know what I would recognize from the end point and look back, going, "Ooh, that's not right."
Right.
So what is it that would be standing out to me as a golfer, saying, oh, this elbow pain or this wrist pain is really not from my computer, it's from my golf swing?
Right. Well,
so
probably it is from your computer that's causing it. So when you take it from your computer and you're in bad alignment and you're using the setup at your computer badly, and then you go hit the golf ball, it's both. So that's the real trick, is how do you use your body effectively 24/7? So when then you go to the golf driving range or you go out to play golf, you're not in an alignment that's going to cause injury. That's the whole real trick about it. So things that people can tell, people can, you can tell, like if you finish your swing and you're off balance, that's one thing. You can tell there's different things that you can look at. Where's the weight on your feet? You're supposed to be towards the middle of your feet. If you're back on your heels, how you do your takeaway, is it feel smooth? Where are you coming down? How are you hitting the ball? There's a lot of things. So the flight path will pretty much tell you.
These are not all things that you need a video camera to recognize. You would recognize just by taking an assessment of yourself.
An inventory.
An inventory is immediately after you finish your swing.
That's one good place. That's where I often see people coming through. When I do actually an analysis, the video analysis, that's what I see is most people's finishes are just not, they either don't finish or they step or they fall back. A lot of times that's just saying that you're getting through the best you can get through, and it's not a balanced swing, So balance is a big part of what has to happen. And then the other thing that, it's a little harder to tell, but, people don't really know how to weight shift. So they think they're on their right leg and they're on their left leg. I think that was one of the things that we looked at with you.
Man.
It was pretty obvious, wasn't it?
Well, it was obvious when you pointed it out, and I've been trying to look at other images and photographs and video of golf swings and realizing that my whole weight shift on the backswing and then on my follow-through is going in the complete opposite direction of where it's supposed to go.
Right.
And
that can cause back problems.
And so what's amazing to me is that I have to completely relearn this. And I just, we went over briefly in our last session, you showed me the video and you said we're doing, and then we did a couple things. And then a few days later, without going to the driving range, I was out on the golf course trying to correct this on the golf course. Like, what am I doing? You know, you don't mess with these things during a round of golf, and here I was messing with
Good idea, yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, we've had rain for 2 weeks. It was the first day it didn't rain, so I was right out on the golf course immediately.
Well, I was too, so.
Yeah, but you weren't working on what I was working on. In the time that we have left for today's episode, I'd like to talk about TPI a little bit and how you got to that, how long ago you got to that, and what it means.
So TPI is the
business.
Titleist Performance Institute, and they're down in Oceanside.
Which is near San Diego, California.
Near San Diego, exactly. And TPI was started by a golf pro and a chiropractor. And so you got both. Two people working together who really looked at the value of combining sort of medical knowledge and the golf professionals' knowledge together. And so they have developed this whole program. They have this incredible setup. I went and visited down there, and it's just like a golfer's dream. You know, you can go for several $1,000s, go and have clubs made, shoes fitted. They do three-dimensional analysis. They have the most incredible setup. They looked at every part of your golf swing. And so you can have that done. Most people can't afford that. And so they've developed this whole program where they teach people how to do it's basically 3 parts. So the first part is video analysis, where I look at golf. You look at golfers from head on down the line to identify 12 common golf swing faults. The second part is you do a physical screening. So I look at range of motion and balance and flexibility in golfers. I have a whole set of tests that I do. And then I take that information and I plug it into the Titleist Performance Institute's website, and it generates an exercise program designed specifically for golfers to correct the physical deficits that are causing the golf swing faults. So there's a continuum. So it makes sense. It's like, okay, if you have a sway or a slide, what is it that you have to do in your body? So then I test people, and they may not have enough range of motion turn in their hips, or they may not be stable enough in the outside of their hips, or they may have tight hamstrings, or they may not be able to move their pelvis separately from their upper body. So you would get exercises to correct those things in the body, so the body's stronger, able to hold the line easier so you don't sway and slide, you know, that you can start getting more flexibility so your setup is more accurate to begin with. And then you're going to decrease the likelihood that you're going to sway and slide because your body has a greater capability physically to do what it is that you're trying to do. So this is what I do through the Titleist program.
And just lucky for me that you are here in Northern California, but we're talking to people that are up in Maine and Massachusetts, Ohio, Florida, Texas, and up in Washington and Oregon, all points and beyond. They probably have a TPI certified person locally for that.
Well, there's 2 things that you can do. It's pretty interesting, is that they actually have a program where you yourself can go into the Titleist Performance Institute's website and do your own physical analysis.
Wow.
Yeah. So what you would have to do is that you would have to contact me or another TPI certified professional. You can go to their website and look who it is. And then you can go in, for a fee, you go in, I give you access to it, and they have videos of each test. And they have a little, they show the test, and then you just can pause it. You can go and do the test, and then they have a series of, I was able to move my pelvis forward and back smoothly. I wasn't able to move it. I was only able to move it in one direction. So they have this whole things, and you plug it in, and then they develop the exercise program for you. And what I didn't say before is that the exercises that are on the website are also, there's when they're sent to the people through their email, that they actually have videos of every exercise. So everything that you get has a complete video of what it is that you're supposed to be doing. So it's really very cool. So
And thorough.
So what you would do is you would contact me or another TPI professional. You can send me a video of your golf swing, and I would do the analysis. And then you can do your own self-screening, and then you plug that all into the website, and you get your exercise program. And you put in how many times a week you want to have a workout. You get to designate that. How many reps you want to do. Do you want cardio? You get to put that all in there. And then, for a given number of weeks, you get these exercises 3 times a week. You get the little notice on your email, and you get to open it up and do your exercises.
Is there any other program that is like this, the
No.
TPI? They are the only ones that have developed this?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to really improve yourself,
Right.
your physical being, and then incorporate it into your golf,
Right.
you really should be searching out TPI. And if, in fact, you want to speak with Ann, communicate. Her website is maringolffitness.com, and it's MARIN, maringolffitness.com. And you can write to me, of course. Click on the Hey Fred button at golfsmarter.com, and I will put you in touch with Ann. We can do it that way as well. And if you have any specific questions for Ann, she's happy to answer them. You can write to her. Let's do this again next week.
Okay.
Let's do another episode for our members only. And now that we've gotten an introduction to you, there's so many more questions, and I know that we've even received some emails from listeners that have questions. You can address those, and hopefully you could even give us some specific tips for pre-round, post-round, things to do before and after your round of golf, even during the round of golf in the next episode. Can we do that?
That sounds great. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. All right. So, again, Ann Grassel, the TPI certified golf fitness instructor and sports medicine physical therapist, coming again next week on a Golf Smarter for Members Only episode. Ann, thanks so much.
Thank you.